This is a Lip Media podcast.
Oh, hello, Lamely. This is Fabulous Adam Richard. With me is Posh, Phillip Lee Curtis. We are ploughing through Mariah Carey's memoir here in Me, I Am a Memoir, the meaning of Mariah Carey.
We do love a good plough.
We're ploughing. Trigger warning for this week is bulk racism. There will be a lot of racism. And
not from us.
Well,
can I point that out?
Well, not deliberately, but I think it's inherently racist that both of us are white talking about racism. Yeah. So we're upfront about our whiteness and our inability to understand racism. So if you think we're being too much, apologies in advance. But there will be a lot of racism in this chapter. How was your week, Posh?
I don't know anymore.
Oh.
No, it was fine.
Are you still watching The Crown?
I am. Yes. Well, Mariah said it, so it is so.
I know. Mariah got a delivery of The Crown, but I mean, she's mad for The Crown, and you now have to watch all of them.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm still crowning.
I was on the other side of Netflix watching The Queen's Gambit.
Oh, I have heard that's good.
It's really good, although I was up till very late last night because we only had one to go and it was like 11:30. I'm like, should we watch it? And I was like, oh, this one's 1 hour and 7 minutes. Oh, we did anyway. And then we had to talk about it and how good it was. So, you know, it was a late night.
If I'm on my computer, I sometimes just watch thing in like 1.5 times. So it goes really fast. And it's quicker.
Is that how you... I hope that's not how you're listening to the Meaning of Mariah Carey
book. Definitely not. I slow that down so I can hear every nuance.
Because I listened this week.
Sigh. Yes, I didn't get to. I'm curious. How was it?
Oh, well, you will find out when we break it on down. But I think now we should get into the 1,000,001 this week. Me moments.
Me moments. So many moments this week, including some breaking news.
Breaking moments.
Oh my God.
I've broken my moment.
I crowned and then I broke my moment. So as I was preparing my Me moments for the week with the headlines and the lead story, breaking news that 4 more of Mariah's videos have been remastered and put onto the YouTubes, and they are all festive.
Oh.
So we have a little Joy to the World, a little Oh Holy Night. I can't. I want to sing Oh Santa, but I can't. So it's like Oh Santa. And when Christmas comes,
split them up. Yeah.
And when Christmas comes, so we've got these were just happening.
You can sing
on the
some
Twitters.
of these songs because they're in public domain, but Oh Santa's the only one you can't sing.
Exactly.
You could give it a red hot go of Oh Holy Night because that's way into public domain.
Oh, holy night. I just sound like South Park. So yes, we interrupted with that breaking news, but our headlines this week, we have a few. So Mariah has unboxed her MC30 vinyl re-releases.
Oh my God. The video which I'm calling Dog Removal Machine, which I'm singing... I'm singing along to the cult song Love Removal Machine.
I did get a tweet about this and I tried to find it so I could figure out what on earth you were talking about, but it disappeared from my life/world. So I'm not sure
did you see it?
I did. The video and your tweet, yes.
You know, but the dog.
No, in the video.
At the very start of the video, there's a man with a mask removing a Jack Russell from the shot.
I'm getting this up right now.
I watched it like 10 times over and over again. Just like Mariah sat and she started talking. It's like, oh, get the dog out.
How can I miss this? I was too busy focusing on the fact that it actually is Mariah in... oh my God.
The dog! The
dog! The poor dog.
Just wrenched away from mummy by some man in a mask.
Now I think we need a gif of this. I may have to make a GIF.
Anyway, I've been singing Dog Removal Machine to the tune of Love Removal Machine by The Cult.
Amazing.
If you don't know it, it's very 90s, kind of like emo metal-y kind of song.
Just right up my alley.
I know.
Oh, so Mariah was very pleased with her vinyls in their
she
festive
loves
colours.
the vinyl.
And they may or may not have matched the back of her album. She's not sure.
I thought that one would match that one, but yeah, maybe not.
Whatever. And I just love that she's like, well, now that they're here, I'm just going to throw them around like Xena. Like, off we go. I'm doing the action just for everyone. Which actually is a remake that I would like to see. Mariah, Warrior Princess.
Oh, that would be your dream.
It can be the spin-off of, what was it? Was it Addie, Parmesan Nazi? Yeah. I was like, was it Addie?
I, this week in my other podcast, Adam Richard Has a Theory. I love doing the crossovers. I watched an episode of Star Trek, which I've long talked in that podcast about how much I would love to watch The Good Wife in Space. I love science fiction, but I also love a lawyer show.
Heaven. Well, do you know what? I can help with this because you could watch Futurama, Single Female Lawyer. Which, do you know that reference?
Yes. I watched this week's episode of Star Trek Discovery was essentially a court case in space. And I was like, I'm here for it. Yeah. It's Good Wife in Space. I'm all over it. My next one is I want Grey's Anatomy in space.
Okay.
I want space medicine, a space ambulance. They had an episode of Doctor Who that was like an ambulance in space. But I want, like, ongoing space ambulance business.
What about just Christine Baranski in space? I would watch that show, yeah.
I would watch Christine Baranski in space. I would watch Christine Lardy in space.
I love Christine Lardy. I am a one-man fan page of Christine Lardy because she's amazing on SVU and she always gets put down, like, to the bottom of the lists of, like, the best DAs. I'm like, no, she was the best. She even, like, when she got, spoiler, killed... she scratched the killer, so she had the DNA under her nails because she's amazing. That wasn't even in the script. Christine Lardy just did that. The poor actor had a huge scratch down his face, but and now she's on Evil.
Oh, Evil! That's meant to be good.
It is good. I liked it.
That's with
Christine Lardy.
With Mike Douglas, is he in that? Am I thinking?
No.
Of that show? Oh.
As in Michael Douglas, like. Catherine Zeta-Jones.
No.
Cunnilingus.
I've forgotten his name.
Michael Douglas.
No. The guy that was Luke Cage.
Oh, yes. I think so.
Yeah, it's totally hot.
And Mariah has also... Mariah has uncancelled Thanksgiving. In a video she's posted, she's not only reinstated the holiday, but she's invented collard greens. While listening to her own song Obsessed. Well, I'd never seen them before. I'd heard of them. But it was only when Mariah showed me what they were that I now know what they are.
Oh, I see.
So Mariah does know collard greens. And we've got more images and a trailer for Mariah Carey's Magical Christmas special being released. We've got Snoop Claus, which I'm very excited about.
Snoop Claus is heaven.
Oh my God. And
Have you seen any of Snoop and Martha
I am aware of it. I need time to sit down and do it, but I'm very... That is right up my alley.
Oh my God.
On my brand. I just imagine them both getting very high together. But I can confirm that last week's speculation, it is in fact Mariah in an extra festive wig. Because we saw more angles. So I might take a screenshot of that original
extra
pic.
festive mean it's for festive?
It's just bigger.
It's for festive.
For festive.
So it's festive to the power of 2, so it's for festive.
For festive, done. Now, Mariah has also called into the Graham Norton show from the Enchanted Forest in the North Pole, might I add. She mentioned that she hated her own teaser for the Christmas special because she wanted it to be a different teaser, not the one in the gold dress, because that's not even in the show.
She's deleted a scene and now it's in the teaser.
And now it's in the teaser. And she's like, I don't even want to talk about it. But she's also mentioned Christmases past, including certain siblings that she doesn't know anymore. So she's adding to the I don't know her list. which is released every Christmas. It's like the Queen's list or whatever that is.
Well, that's like Santa's naughty and nice list. It's the nice list and the I don't know her list.
Yeah. They don't even get caught because she doesn't know them. And lastly...
Gotta find out who's nice and who I don't know.
But obviously you won't find out because I don't know them. I don't want to find out. And lastly, I went and saw Trolls 2 last night, and I've decided...
Bless you. The world tour.
Yes, because it's got Kelly Clarkson in it. Yeah. I've decided that Trolls 3 should be Christmas themed, starring Mariah. Oh. And I also purchased a really big Mariah Christmas hoodie that I'll be wearing with festive pride, even though we're in Australia and it's summer. Now, in our lead story...
Oh, lead story.
We have a lead story. We have, yes, thank you.
Carrie Poshmore.
We have Mariah's interview with Naomi Campbell.
This is something I don't understand. Explain it to me.
So, Naomi Campbell decided to have a podcast, which we obviously can't fault her for.
No.
And it's just her interviewing random people that, are famous that she claims to know. Cool. It's interesting. It gives me a little bit of the Drew Barrymore show vibes. Where
you mean it's hectic.
Someone's just let her into a room and pressed record. And
no one's advising her to do anything in it.
No. She's definitely got some notes. I think there's a teleprompter happening somewhere, but also just going off on a tangent and just listening for 10 minutes as people say how much they love her and then doing the same back. So that was the first 10 minutes of the interview, was like, I really love you. I love you too. But then Naomi did ask, do you remember when we first met? Which Mariah was like, I know we've met.
Does Naomi remember?
Well, that was the thing. They were like, kind of not. That's what was weird about it.
So neither of them remembered, but they know they've met.
Yeah, I know I've met you. Were you that one or the top model one?
Shops?
Yeah, I think it must have been at the shops. Yeah. But I love that a lot of the questions were very much, I know you, but also I'm asking the same questions that, journalists on their first date would ask.
Oh, yeah, no. It's like, so I remember my first interviews, and it was Atomic Kitten. Right.
And
the first 5 minutes, I'm like, oh man, listen to you. You sound like an idiot.
But then you were with Kerry Katona, so it's fine. It balanced.
But no, it was post Katona.
What's the point? Now, in the early parts of the interview, Naomi's like, okay, we're going to start at the beginning. And Mariah's reaction was, oh, Lord. And then she went on to say, in the tradition of the Tooth Fairy and Santa Claus, I was never born and here I am. And then my favourite part was she then just turned it into advertising the Christmas special. But a few other bits and pieces, I know. A few other bits and pieces, we've got Mariah talking to Lee Daniels about the book. So a little something there. She actually talked a little bit about moving to all these new places that she's touched on in the book, the 13 different places.
Oh, yes, and 13 is 13 that.
Yeah. And often, and again, sort of around the racism thing, the first question that when she'd go to a new school or things like that was, what are you?
Oh.
Not who are you? And she really emphasized the what.
What are you?
And she mentioned, trying to find her own tribe. And she said, because my own tribe hated me, my own ex-brother and ex-sister. So they got a little mention in the film.
They are not coming off well.
We did get a little bit serious, but then after the serious stuff, there was a moment where it's almost like Mariah went into, I'm talking about real stuff here. Oh, hang on, this is an interview. Fluffed the pillows and then fluffed the cushions as well. Flipped the hair a little, just like, I forgot I'm on camera. Better get back to looking my Mariah best. But it was things like, I think the thing with Naomi, and it's probably just because I don't know how long she's done this podcast for, but maybe she's quite new, but it was very much, Mariah talked about Whitney Houston and how the supposed feud, but everyone who knew them both said, oh no, you guys are going to get along fine. So Naomi did the whole thing, I knew, yeah, I was there. I totally knew you'd get along. It's fine. And now she's cancelled Sandra Bernhardt for comments made in the 90s, which were fair enough because they were shitty comments. So I'm like, okay, go. And just Mariah touching on Christmas and how even though Christmas is for the kids, it's mainly for me. And then right at the end, they were talking about the rarities, which Naomi had no idea existed. She was like, when are we getting a rare B-sides album? And Mariah's like, it's already out. But she talked about the original Loverboy, but then it really quickly cuts to like a different part of the interview, and I was like, betcha J-Lo was mentioned.
There was some I don't know her.
Oh yeah, because then I googled Jamal. I tried to say J-Lo and Naomi, and it came out Jamal, which is just a fun name. J-Lo and Naomi, and there's many a photo on many occasions with Naomi and J-Lo. So perhaps it was actually not a Mariah request. Maybe it was a Naomi request.
Maybe.
But all in all, for all of the interviews that we've had, it was kind of hectic, but it was definitely an experience. Wow. It was an experience, darling.
I do love what people get up to now that they're in lockdown and they can't make money.
And I love also throughout it was like Naomi going, "Oh, I'm so sorry I didn't call during the breakdown. I tried. Your number kept changing." And it's like, clearly this is the first time that they've actually spoken in 20 years, even though they're pretending to be best friends. Mariah's like, who is this model, is it? Who is this media that I'm speaking with?
Oh my God.
How about a recap? A recap. Would you like a recap?
How about it? How about a recap of last week?
That is the section.
So last week we had Mariah's relationship with her father, which involved a single Ritz cracker, elegant fresh linguine.
Elegant fresh linguine!
You just completely broke my earphone. And the full-throated belting of the White Rabbit song.
Yes. Yes, you did get to catch up on the audiobook. How was that experience?
I did get to catch up on the audiobook. And you know what? I just went all the way through to my new chapters that I had.
Fair enough, yes.
But yes, so it was I was loving the singing of everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's our recap.
The gist.
How's the gist this week? How are we feeling?
Well, last week we were asking ourselves, is it Hodel? Is it
Hodel?
Hodel. So this week we are doing the chapters Colouring Outside the Lines and Huddle. Because she says it, obviously.
Does she? Yes. So it's got more of a U sound going on.
Well, because it's a character from
Gwen
Fiddler on
Stefani's
the
Rich
Roof.
Girl.
No, yeah, essentially. It's a character from Fiddler on the Roof, from which Gwen Stefani's Witch Girl takes its...
I have a rule that I only see musicals with pop stars related to them. So Jesus Christ Superstar had Sporty Spice in it. Fiddler on the Roof had that song with Gwen.
I'm going to see Frozen this week.
And which pop star is in that?
I think Demi Lovato did the song back when it was a cartoon.
Cool. It can be a loose connection. There just needs to be a connection.
So basically, both of these chapters are about Mariah's dad not being who people expect him to be. Mm-hmm. And that is where our racism is going to occur in great, great detail.
All right. Shall we break it on down?
Break me on down.
All right, let's break it. Let's break it into pieces. Once again, our trigger warning, racism. I kind of figured a chapter called Colouring Outside the Lines was going to be about colour.
I was thinking lines.
One problem I had, and this is something like if you're a writer, it's something to kind of investigate, is there's a great, I think it's like a Tumblr called Writing with Colour, which is so many people use terrible, terrible language when describing people's skin colour. Because, over the years, this term has been used, and it's technically racist. One of the things they say to try to steer clear of, and Mariah does not in this chapter, is using food.
Oh, really?
To describe skin color, because especially if it's because it kind of fetishizes the person in a way. Like it kind of, and I got to say, her describing her brothers and sisters and parents
as biscuits,
as types of biscuit, I was like, oh man, I really want to eat a biscuit. But it was, I kind of liked it though, because it really did. I mean, it was effective because I was like, oh yeah, I know that color. And I know that color.
I've eaten that.
That
over and over.
So we've gone from the previous chapter of the Ritz cracker, and now everyone's a cracker.
All biscuits of every kind.
So yeah, there was a lot of biscuit talk, which I was confronted by, just because I've read that in the past. Like,
sure,
don't use chocolate to describe people. It fetishizes someone. It's not, it's not a great way to talk about skin color. Like, there are a million other things.
Just don't talk about people's skin color.
Well, that's probably the best way to do it. Like, it's because you don't talk about, generally people don't write about white people's skin color.
They write about mine, but that's only because I'm translucent.
But unless they're fetishizing them, it's only when you're fetishizing someone that you really dig down into their skin color. Anyway, the biscuits was difficult for me.
Fair enough. And I'm just trying to stay away from lose some of this COVID weight. So the biscuit. Just thinking about biscuits. Not so good.
By the way, there is so much singing in these.
Is there? I was going to ask. Because we do start with Outside, which is sadly not the George Michael hit. But still a great song.
But yeah, she sings everything. Everything that's in italics in these two chapters.
Good girl.
Even Fiddler on the Roof, which I'm like, oh, did you pay for that?
She's Mariah Carey, she doesn't have to. She sang it 20, 30, 40, 45 years ago. 12 years ago, 6 years ago.
She was last Thursday.
Yeah. Yes, when she was in primary school. Okay, so I did want to read the first line, because I think that's the one that stood out to me the most, which was, my first encounters with racism were like a first kiss in reverse each time. A piece of purity was ripped from my being. Left behind was a spreading stain which seeped so deeply inside of me that to this day, I've never been able to completely scrub it out. Not with time, not with fame or wealth, not even with love. I wrote the whole thing down because it really stood out to me.
Yeah.
And what I found very interesting was we obviously talk about Mariah's fantasy world and all the festiveness that she's kind of made up. And I think we've even questioned on here, we're writing about some of these things help settle her into her own reality a little bit more. And I did find it really interesting that even the fame and the wealth and all of the trimmings have not actually eliminated it. And I wonder, does Mariah, now that she's been able to write it down and not only acknowledge it within herself, but have it validated by people who will read this and go, I understand, will that help her just settle into her own reality, her own feelings about these things?
Look, I'm going to suggest maybe not. Because all of the big racist moments in these two chapters are around the appearance of her father. So everyone's fine with her, but little Becky.
Don't get me started. We'll get there.
But the annoying teachers who are telling her she's using the wrong crayon. By the way, Mariah's you've got, wait till you hear the chapter. She's using the wrong crayon.
Oh, really? She does impressions.
It's not that full. But yeah, she Because, and I love the way this is structured. So we get the chapter before, which is all about her dad and her great relationship with him up to a point. The elegant fresh linguine and the Ritz cracker. But, there's a lot of idolizing him and kind of seeing him as this kind of, flawed but amazing person. He has problems, but he's really proud of his car, and he's just really fastidious in the kitchen, and we just get a beautiful rounded picture of this person. So we see him as a person.
Yeah, we're not there with Patricia yet. She's just the opera singer.
We don't see him as a colour. We don't see him as anything other than a fully rounded person or character if this was a novel. And then in these two chapters, he becomes the other to everyone else. To Mariah, he's still my dad.
Yeah.
But to everyone else in this section, he is a scary, terrifying other. And that is a really kind of powerful way to paint a picture of racism in, anywhere, but in America, because it's just kindergarten teachers are being inadvertently racist in mocking her for her choice of crayons when she doesn't have the one of the right biscuit shade. And then Becky, but yeah, and these supervisors at the camp who refuse to cast her anymore, so her dad won't come to the musicals.
So we'll wind back. We'll start with the drawing. So Mariah's drawing of her family, and I love that she actually, even though brown was the only available color to her, that she was like, well, I'm going to use it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to, pretend to be like the other kids or to fit in or whatever it is. She was like, I'm just drawing a picture of my family. And I did love that she was obsessed with getting a gold star sticker.
Oh, I know.
I get it. That was totally seal of approval.
Gold star sticker. Also, but just a sidebar, how amazing is it to hear her talk about her brother and sister in completely neutral way? There's no judgment. There's no, they had this color skin. She had beautiful ringlets. That's the nicest thing she said about Ellison.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, I didn't think about it as I was reading that particular sentence.
I'd say when I listened to it, it was only when I read it back. I just was like, oh, she's actually nice about them here. They're just my brother and sister.
Okay, one sentence. That is it. Now, the note I wrote down is the teachers laughing at Mariah are legit fuckheads.
Oh, they are really bad.
Take away the racist angle. Don't laugh at children, who are just expressing themselves. What is happening at that kinder? My auntie works in, childcare, sort of checking out the centres. I think I'm going to have to send her in and just see what's going on here.
Well, can I make a suggestion?
No.
Okay.
Yes.
So Mariah Carey has fixated on this moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is a very formative moment for her, which might have been an actual small moment. It might have been...
Sure.
It might have been a little whispered, I think she's using the wrong crayon.
Yeah.
She's coloured her dad in brown. Oh dear, that's a bit embarrassing, isn't it? It could have been something she overheard, which in the last few decades has grown in her memory as a really horrific. I mean, it is still a horrific moment regardless.
Yes, I understand what you're
I don't want to minimize what happened because it's terrible. But, because it's had such a huge impact on her in her life that maybe they were laughing hysterically in her memory when in reality there was a bit of a giggle behind the hand.
The thing that I still don't understand though, regardless of whether you're in a predominantly white neighborhood, people of color still exist. So I don't understand how if you saw a child's drawing of someone with a darker skin tone that you would immediately assume that, well, that's just not a thing. What do you mean? It's wrong. It can't possibly be that her father is a man of color. I feel like these people didn't have any qualifications. They should not be in charge of children.
Well, I think back in the days there was, a lot of like, I don't know if you've listened to the podcast Nice White People about the school system in New York, but it sounds terrible. Like the education system sounds like a nightmare. If you don't have a bucket of money to pour into your kids' education in America, then you get, barrel scrapings essentially. So I'm guessing, coming from a broken family, that Mariah Carey did not go to the best school, and they were the teachers they could afford.
Does she sigh before she mentions them? Because I do. When Mariah mentioned her friend Becky, she sort of describes her saying that she was the girl that she herself would have been if Patricia married a man her mother would approve of. Now, this was a very short mention, and we haven't had much of Patricia's mother at all. No. We don't even have a name yet. But I found that quite a loaded sentence. She moves on from it quickly, but it's like, I'm going to burn you right here with this sentence. I'm not going to mention your name because I don't know you. You do not pertain to the meaning of me. But
she might later on.
She may. But yeah, I just found that very interesting. It's the first time Mariah's mentioned that side of the family that I can tell. I remember.
I found like she didn't say anything in particular about Patricia, her mother, in this chapter. The opera singer. But there is an axiom with writing in that action is character. Like, you can have a person say all the things in the world that seem nice, but what they do is the worst thing in the world. And you go, well, then you're a bad person. Her mother waiting for Becky to have that moment and then taking her away in the car.
Yeah, we will get to that.
That is not okay.
So my note on this section, so when Becky is having a play date with Mariah and they go to Mariah's dad's.
Because they're going to have elegant fresh linguine.
Yes, of course. No parmesan, thank you. Addie is not there. But Becky crying essentially because Mariah's dad was black. Like, what kind of bullshit backwards house was this girl growing up in? Because even though I grew up in a small town that was predominantly white, but there were people of colour, there was also people who had different hair than me. Yeah. Like, whether I was blonde and there was people with red hair and brown hair and black hair. And as a kid, you might notice that, but it's not in a judgment way. It's just like, your hair is different than mine. And that was all. I didn't cry when I saw them. That is something that is shown and taught. That is not something you were just born and you scream and cry. Maybe when you just see men in general, like, I get it. But wherever Becky was existing was clearly not a healthy environment, because that is not a normal reaction to seeing anyone who's a bit different.
I know, because
especially for a child.
I was trying to think of my own experience as a kid. Like, I had an Aboriginal friend when I was a kid, and I went to his house, and the most shocking thing was that his parents both swore. Whereas in my house, my dad only swore when he was away from my mum. But I was just like, that was the only point of difference that I could kind of find in their house. And my dad did try and needle me about what goes on there. I was like, I don't know, that's just David's house.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, kids don't know. Like, I don't know why. I don't get what happened with Becky. Like, Becky,
I do love that right towards the end, Mariah mentions that she's using Becky's real name because she just wants to remind us all that Becky is a fuckhead. She's like, so I am using your real name, Becky, because screw you.
Her name was Becky.
Becky
with the good hair.
A 4-year-old crying, in that situation.
But what was going on with Patricia? Why was Patricia waiting for it to happen?
I have a whole section dedicated to this. But that kind of does sum up Colouring Outside the Lines, but does bring us pretty quickly into Hodel. I'm just like suddenly saying Hodel. Hodel. Because it does, for me, it feels like, fairly quick continuation of the same story.
Like listening to the audiobook, you can't tell that you've moved on to another section.
Yes. So early on, Mariah does say that singing is when she most feels like herself. Mm-hmm. I have to agree that I'm the same when I'm on stage and I'm in that moment. I'm not really even thinking of it. It just kind of happens. Is that the same way you feel with stand-up, or is it more the way you feel with writing?
Well, I quit stand-up a couple of years ago, so I can't say that it is. I was always very comfortable on stage, though, and very comfortable performing. I think I feel most comfortable now on the couch watching television with my hand in my pants.
Like Al Bundy.
Like Al Bundy.
I'm probably Peggy.
I don't actually feel comfortable. I feel twitchy when I can't relax. Like I feel like I need to be doing things.
Yeah.
Weirdly, I feel most comfortable at the moment at work, like doing my job, like working on Hard Quiz. And my favorite thing, and this is only something that's happened in the last, say, 10 years. My favorite thing is teaching other people how to do stuff. Like teaching people how to do stand-up, I used to love. If anyone wants to learn how to do stand-up, I will teach you. Sadly, the first lesson is go to a gig every night for an entire month, and that usually stops people wanting to do it ever again.
As in like watching a gig? Or...
Watching a gig every night. Good gigs, bad gigs, whatever you can get to. Like go and see Jimmy Carr if you can, and Tom Gleeson, or just go to some pub down the road and see a bunch of shitwits who don't know what they're doing. Like every night for a month, because every time anyone said, I want to learn how to do stand-up, and I say, you have to go to a gig every night for a month. That's your first lesson. Yeah. They're like, I just can't spare the time. And I'm like, well, then you don't want to be a comedian.
Yeah, fair enough.
Because that is your life. Like
there are times that a concert for me is... Sometimes I'll go more than once, because sometimes it's, number one, to enjoy it.
Yeah.
But number two, it's then, well, what am I going to learn here?
Yeah.
And I remember that before my first time on stage singing, I'd gone to... a Lady Gaga show, which I'd already seen her.
Yeah.
But I went along because I was like, this is research now.
Yeah. Like,
I'm going to watch what she does, not worry about the rest of the show, just as a performer, what is going on there. Yeah. And I'm so glad I did, because it just reminded me that, number one, be yourself. Like, that's where I function best on stage. Other people may be different. Mm-hmm. But you just got to believe in yourself, otherwise no one else will.
Yeah. And all sorts of gigs, like terrible gigs are sometimes but like seeing someone singing along to their iPod in a hotel, foyer. Like,
please stop describing my cabaret career.
But seeing anything, like watching someone at a wedding, like watching someone perform anywhere, like any gig, anytime. If you want to be a performer of whatever sort, go and see all of the performing. Same with writing. Like, if you want to be a novelist, then read books. Like, you can't go, I'm going to be a novelist, and I've read 2 Mills and Boon, so that should do me.
Chapter 1.
Same with writing a television show. Like, I can't watch comedy anymore. Like, I can't watch sitcoms, because I just go, oh, yes, and now that'll become a joke now, because that's happened there. And that's like, all I do is analyze it, because... you have to be prepared for what you love to become your job, and how much of what you love are you prepared to sacrifice to being work. Yeah. Because it is work. Like, it is 24/7 work. But clearly, Mariah loves the work.
Oh, yes.
Like, that's the thing you get from Hodel. It's like, oh, yeah, no, I love this.
I do love that she sort of talks about, singing out her problems, and that's when she goes to her private vocal booth to sing out all of these things. Now, I was just wondering, like, what is this booth? What does it look like? Is it like Narnia? Like, you walk in and it's just expansive? Are there snacks? Are there butterflies? What are we envisioning?
I think it's the downstairs toilet. What's called a powder room on a diagram of a house on real estate.
She's just singing to cover up any other noises.
Yeah. Then when she gets in her whistle register is when the plop happens.
She's like, I'm just going to go, quote unquote, work through some problems. Which is code for poopy times. I love that this is where we've gotten. Now, of course, we did mention the Fiddler on the Roof and Hodel. I haven't heard the audiobook, so I just keep saying Hodel, like Hodel Street.
The worst road in Melbourne. Punt
this
road.
performance did actually come up on Twitter recently because someone had tweeted that they were talking about, they remembered the little girl that was in the school production of Fiddler on the Roof and how amazing she was.
Yes.
And someone has, I'd have to go back and find the exact tweet, but I believe someone came on and said that was Mariah Carey, because they'd obviously read the book or heard her talk about the story. And then, of course, that's been brought forward to Mariah. And she's like, oh my God, that was me. And do you have any footage? Which I don't think has been uncovered yet. And it was, again, that was last week when, you know,
like
video
someone would have been watching
exist.
it on their iPhone, surely.
Yeah.
They'd been invented when she was a kid.
They're definitely in colour. But I just thought that was... Yeah. I thought how sweet, though, that someone just remembered her even then. And just basically saying her voice stood out. She was very confident, all of that. Which is just nice
the fact that her older sister, who clearly has got problems, dragged her out of bed at 1 o'clock in the morning to sing a very difficult song to sing, says to me, oh, yeah, I know what my sister can sing. Yeah. Like, even though Mum's an opera singer, I know the sister can sing.
And the fact that Mariah was booked.
I love that she was booked.
Yeah. Now, she also does mention that Mum, the opera singer, did help her practicing for this role on the Yamaha piano. I love that throughout this book, Mariah has product placement. She's like the Yamaha. We've got the Casio keyboard previously available on Audible, Apple TV Plus. Like, just she's getting it in there, just reminding these people that they have to give her money.
I don't think that's why it's there.
But it is. I probably wouldn't remember some of those things. Like, I'd remember the keyboard, but I wouldn't probably remember that it was Casio or Yamaha.
No, Casio was like a big, like, dinky little keyboard thing. Like, that was speaking from someone of Mariah's vintage, the Casio keyboard was like a new and exciting thing because it was portable. You could dinker on it. And Yamaha are pretty much the... Anytime you learn the piano, pretty much it's on a Yamaha. Like, you go to one of those piano learning schools. They were...
I was going to piano learning school.
I know my English flies away in this podcast. Piano learning schools. But yeah, they use Yamahas a lot because they're quite sturdy.
And also, they're sponsoring. And then, of course, Mariah does talk about going to camp. And I just love that she made a quote-unquote camp friend. And all I could think of was, is it one of us? Were we her camp friend? Was it the Dunkles?
Camp friends. Billy Eichner's going to be in her Christmas special.
That's true. She loves a bit of Billy Eichner. And then, of course,
I love that when he retweeted that he's doing the Christmas special, he's like, oh, my rabbi's going to be so angry at me.
I know. And then Mariah's like, let me talk to him first. I'll smooth this over. And then we touched a little bit on, because I knew Mariah has sort of mentioned that she's not much of a dancer, which I disagree, because I've seen her jiggle a little in the Honey video. She's fabulous. Yes. But she kind of talked about being traumatized by it. And as soon as this story started, I just saw the name Addie. And I thought, oh, fuck me, here we go. Because as soon as her name was mentioned, it was like, okay, it's happening. Addie's back to cause more chaos. She's
with a purse full of parmesan.
Yes. Basically claiming that Mariah wasn't her father's because she couldn't dance. The implication, of course, being that white people can't dance. And I've got to say, myself and Britney Spears take great offense to this as the only two white people who can dance. I'm very upset about this.
I remember as a kid learning that was racist. Saying that if someone can dance, then they must be black. Or, it was in different strokes. I think it was like because Willis was a really good dancer, and someone said those people are, and I was like, what?
That's the thing. I think people seem to have it in their head. Well, if it's a compliment, it's fine.
No,
which is not true. Oh my God. No, I'm saying nice things.
My mum, when I was a kid, well, I was probably a teenager, walked into my bedroom once, which is, I was always a pigsty. But I have a photographic memory. I knew where everything was because I could see it. So it was all on the floor. She just walked in and she said, I thought you people were supposed to be tidy.
Oh my God.
Like, Mom, that's homophobic.
Yeah, you were only 3, but we all knew. That does make me think of, when you said pigsty, it made me think of the clip that Mariah put up where she was being asked whether she would be ham or turkey. Did you watch this clip?
No.
Oh, it's on her YouTube, on her Twitter, and it was an old interview about Thanksgiving being cancelled. But they were asking whether Mariah was a ham or a turkey, and she just thought that was the funniest thing that's ever happened. She's like, "Is it a cooked ham? Is it a pig? Is it a cooked turkey or not a cooked turkey?" Mariah did choose turkey because she thought that she may get shot, but only on Thanksgiving, whereas pigs might get slaughtered all year round. So yeah, that was weird.
See, I just think of pigsty, and I think of Miss Piggy's segment from Muppets Now, which is lifestyle.
Which we have not mentioned on this podcast at all. But this chapter sort of touched on things, but it sort of brought back around sort of the racism angle towards the end when she's basically talking about her dad's pride watching her perform, even though he wasn't sort of, really into this choice that she was making about being a creative.
And he Jewish. Like it was a Jewish camp.
That's true.
I'm Jewish now, Dad.
Yep.
Gonna go sing Fiddler on the Roof at my Jewish school camp.
With Gwen Stefani. So basically, talking about how pleased and proud he was and how happy she was to have him there. But that towards the end, him coming up to her, everyone discovered that he was a person of colour and that all of a sudden she didn't get any more roles at this camp. Now, this was very interesting because, as you mentioned before about the kinder teachers, it's sort of that thing is, how much of that is 100% fact? How much is it Mariah's perception at that age? And it could be 50-50. Yeah.
I think in this instance, it's Mariah Carey. If she's not getting cast anymore, it's not because she's no
not
good.
Yeah. And that's just so messed up. It's so unfathomable to me. I don't understand at all.
It's racism is hard to get your head around. It's all pervasive, and it is, even to the point where you get this thing where people are like, we just hire someone on merit, and it's like, yeah, but do you in the back of your head decide someone is perhaps not going to fit in to your workspace because, of whatever reason, they're differently abled, or because they seem gay, or because they're a woman, or, is there something that goes on in the back of your head when you're choosing people for roles? Even in, workplaces, I'm not just talking about roles in Fiddler on the Roof, but is there something that goes on in your head that goes, oh yeah, I don't think that'd be appropriate because of that? And you don't, it's not a definite, I'm being racist thing, but I can understand, this is a Jewish camp, and they're probably doing Jewish musicals every year, and they've gone, I don't know if we can cast a little half-black girl in this musical. She was very good, but she's a half-black girl. So maybe we'll give it
to our racism.
But it's a weird thing that goes on with people. So yeah, I think that's why you should go out of your way. One of the things at work when we're choosing stock photos, I always say, if you're choosing a stock photo for whatever the thing is, some stock photo companies now, you can click on ethnicity. I go, just scroll past the first couple of screens of white men.
Yeah.
And pick someone else.
I think that's just
3 screens of white men pretending to be doctors. It's like, can I get to someone else?
Yeah. I feel that's just life, though, isn't it? You just got to get through the white men, get out of the way. so I could find my real people. My
Like,
friends.
it's not even like, I'm not even saying pick a particular ethnicity. It's just like, you know, if you can't find a decent photo that's not a white man, then choose a white man. But like, just try and scroll through the first 3 pages.
Yeah, just try to reflect the real world.
Yes.
Like, that's all it is.
But I think that's part of it. It's like, you know, people are so used to, like, it's kind of institutionalized, unfortunately, but they're so used to like, oh, well, that person is not one of us, so I shouldn't invite them to the club, you know. And in a work environment, that is completely inappropriate.
It's like, you know, the example I think of is like a mechanic, you know, your old school, so, you know, your small mechanic shop where you've got the booby calendars in the office and all that sort of stuff, and it's boys being boys and all that sort of shit. They wouldn't hire a woman because they would be like, oh, but then our fun, sexist, racist, homophobic lunchtimes won't be fun anymore.
Oh, I remember as recently as what? It was like 2-3 years ago when Rebecca Madden was cast on the Footy Show in Melbourne, and the week before, Sam Newman's like, oh, we better get all this out now because there's a woman coming next week. And there was just a shot of the audience. It's like, half the people there are women. Like, why do you think your workplace is being invaded by... I mean, he's not a good example because he's a dickhead.
He's the worst person on this earth.
But it's just that attitude, I think, of, you know, not one of us. And you go, well... It's the human race.
Who wants to be one of you, Sam Newman? You can't even use the self-service checkout at Port Melbourne Coles or South Melbourne Coles. I saw you. You don't know how to use it.
But it's that thing. It's like we're all members of the human race. So it is still one of us. Like,
yes, exactly.
So, yeah. But I think that this is very institutionalized, this racism.
Mm-hmm. But I do think that brings us to the end of Breaking Me On Down. It was a heavy Breaking Me On Down.
Mariah made it.
The meatiness. How's your meatiness this week?
Oh, my meatiness, like as I said, I was sitting on it before. For anyone listening, I'm sitting on a yoga ball, and
it's really disturbing because when you get excited, you start to bounce.
I do. I'm just playing Kylie's exercise in my head. Now, I did send out a little tweet for the Lamely to vote on last week's chapter, The Father and the Son. Now, I gave that a 9 out of 10. Fab gave that an 8 out of 10. 10? That's not a word. 10. And the Lamely, it was a 50-50 split.
Oh.
With between 9 to 10 and infinity. So they did believe it was quite a meaty chapter.
It was super meaty.
And I think we should agree.
Well, it was full of elegant fresh linguine. You can't get more meaty than
exactly.
That. It was all that clam liquor.
Stop. Clam liquor. I don't know what you're talking about. I've not done that in years. Now, colouring outside the lines, what was your Mariah meatiness score?
Look, I gave it a 7 because I feel like it's coloured by Mariah Carey's recollection of it. And I mean, I believe people could be that insensitive, but I felt like she was perhaps dramatizing things a little bit.
Sure.
But Becky, I totally believe.
Oh, yeah. So I gave this, I gave this a 7 because I felt that while obviously we're getting into some heavy topics, I think it's just the beginning. I think when we learn more about Patricia, there may be a little bit more about the segregation that would have been going on in the family. So I did feel like it was just the beginning. So you gave that a 7 as well. I'll jot that down. And then for Hodel.
I'm giving that an 8.
Yeah.
Because that felt more institutionalized, that racism. Like the other ones were, I mean, I guess all racism is based on individuals being idiots. But this felt more like structural. Like it felt very like we as a group are going to say no to this incredibly talented singer and performer. I mean, look, who knows? Maybe all of the other mothers went, she's making us kids look bad.
Yeah, it could have been. Becky's not getting any spotlight.
No one's noticing that Becky can't sing. because someone is playing to the back row from the back row of the chorus.
Yeah.
But I very much doubt that was the case. But yeah, just because it felt like a very institutionalized racism moment, and it was really, really hard. But also, you know, there was the mixture of her dad being proud, her grandmother thinking that she was not her dad's kid. Like, it was a lot going on. So I'm giving that one an 8.
Yes,
8
I also
meatiness.
gave this one an 8 as well.
I gave it matiness.
I did feel like as soon as Addie was mentioned,
Oh, you
that's
love
what
her.
pushed it up.
You love-
it was more just
her
like
in her pocketbook full of
Addie.
parmesan.
I just saw the name. I was like, all right, fuck, here we go. But I will say, I may have pushed up the score a little had this been one chapter, because I think that really it's covering the same sort of range. Yeah. So had it just been called Colouring Outside the Lines, obviously that would have been a reference to specifically colouring like in Kinder, but it also really does pertain to the rest of the
it's that rule of
within
3.
these
So it's
chapters.
3 stories of, you know, of her dad surprising people with his grace and
I
behaving very, very inappropriately.
Yeah, and I think just the way it was summed up right at the end, where it was like, oh, Dad was so proud of me, I never got to do it again.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it tied it right back together. So yeah, I think it could have gone even a little bit higher had it been one chapter, but that's okay.
Audiobook wise, like we get all the singing all the time.
Excited.
So it's fairly meaty in and of itself.
Are we ready for the remix?
Mm-hmm.
The remix. The remix.
I actually have a very specific remix. It's more of a serious one this week, not a joke. So for me in this one, we have touched on it a little bit, but if I was Patricia, and I'd taken Becky to go visiting, I would have gotten down to Becky's level, like eye contact level, and I would have told her to Marsha Gay Harden the fuck up and get on with the play date. But okay, there's a little bit of joke in there. But I would have used it as a learning experience to show that, oh, okay, yes, you're having this reaction. Let's try to, instead of running away as if like, oh, well, you'll cry, so we'll just, you know, oh, there. You'd be like, well, why don't you introduce, I'll introduce Alfred Roy to you and you'll see that he's a man like any other man and it doesn't matter about the colour of his skin and just all of that, just what you should do. I'm a bit pissed off at Patricia about this. That's the remix.
That was exactly my remix. Patricia, just make that kid stay. Like, kids cry all the time about nothing.
And look, maybe Patricia was
I dropped my ice cream. There's some tears.
Maybe this
Can't
was not
drop
the
a
first.
shoelace.
It's Thursday. And look, maybe, Patricia just couldn't be asked that day. Maybe it had happened before. We don't know. But it was just that thing of, in a perfect world, she would have sat down. Well, in a perfect world, it wouldn't have happened. But in a perfect world, she would have been like, well, let's because, again, it's that whole talk thing.
It was
let's
the hanging
show
around waiting for it to happen that I really found problematic.
And it kind of backs it up by going, oh, yes, let's sweep you out of here. And then never playing again. Yeah. Like, come on, Becky, get your shit together.
Although, maybe Becky's family were problems. Like,
oh, they definitely were. I hate them.
Patricia might have known that.
Well, then don't take... Yeah, I don't know. It's all fucked up.
Yeah.
You can't win,
families,
unfortunately.
They're not okay.
Oh, there you go. So same remix. Very good.
Remix. Double remix.
And what about Can Take That Away, Mariah's Lesson?
Can take that away. Oh, Mariah's lesson.
What was the lesson you learned this week?
Well, I think I kind of touched on it earlier, that institutions can be as racist, if not more racist, than the people that make them up. Like a whole, organization can enact racism in ways that individuals probably would not have as much power to do. But yeah, institutionalized racism is terrifying. Like that, you know. Although on the therapy side of the things that we learn from the setbacks we have, the mistakes we make, the things that create us, like, is not getting cast in any more productions by this weird Jewish summer camp what made Mariah want to perform more.
Possibly.
Like, if she
it clearly pertains to the meaning of Mariah Carey.
I know. Like, if she kept getting validation at that age, would she have just gone, oh yeah, I'm done with singing now? And
maybe.
What a loss to me.
Yes, to us, all of us.
So
absolutely.
God bless those racist Jews for stopping Mariah singing.
La 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 la. Don't know what's happening here. See, my lesson, I think really the overall lesson that Mariah is putting across is don't be a racist piece of shit, Becky. Yeah. Or anyone. Just don't be fucking racist. It's dumb. Don't do it. It's bad. It's all bad.
Oh, look, I think all of the racism is bad. For me, it's just the entire summer camp that really upsets me. Because I'm like, well, Becky, that's one person. She might learn in time. Also, the idiot school teachers, they might learn in time.
Sure.
But this is a whole bunch of people every year choosing not to cast her for a very, very racist reason. I'm like, that's a problem. That's my lesson.
Now, this does bring us to I Don't Know Her. I feel like we've got a few additions to the I Don't Know Her closet today. Starting with the kinder teachers.
Oh, yeah, no good.
I don't know her.
I don't know her.
I also think, based on this conversation, I think we don't know the camp.
No.
We do not know this camp.
No.
And, of course, most importantly, Addie, I still don't know her.
Well, I'm doing a reverse. I do know Morgan and Allison this week.
Oh.
Like, they were allowed to be coloured in and they had biscuit-coloured skin. Just like everyone else.
Yes.
They were included. Mariah was inclusive of her frequently excluded brother and sister. And I'm like, good on you, girl. You can,
all right.
You can accept your siblings for just one colouring in lesson.
Yes, for a second. I thought you were about to know Addie, and I got very concerned.
No, I don't know her.
So yes, we do have a few people that we don't know this week, but how nice. We do know some people
someone.
this week. We won't know them again next week, but that's for next week.
What is...
At the end of the podcast, baby. Almost there, almost home. You could probably say, but you won't because of copyright. That's a no.
Well, that does bring us to almost home. What is happening next week?
So next Mariah Monday, we will be covering Light of My Life.
Oh, just the one chapter.
Just the one chapter. Where it's more of a juicy one, a few more pages than this week.
It's a big fat one, isn't it?
So I'm very curious as to what it's going to be about. I have not looked ahead at all.
And you are listening and I'm reading.
Yes, and that means I'll get to listen to these two chapters as well.
Excellent.
And hear all about it. I should say, if people could, of course, on all of the iTunes and all of that, leave us a little review. Mm-hmm. I did do a little research this week, Fab, to find that much of our audience is in the United States, which I was not expecting. Over 50%.
Hello, Americans.
Hello, Americans. How are you, darlings? But based on our reviews, the Aussies are loving us with all 5 stars.
Excellent.
The US Lamely is a little more mixed on us.
Well, it's hard to work out what we're saying with our accent.
The star ratings are a little all over the shop.
I said I want a 1-star rating and I'm happy for it. Please.
So please know, because
me.
for me, like, 1 star is not enough. I am high maintenance. I can only sleep under 5 stars. So please, I know that
attention.
I know that Fab is an attention whore, but I'm just a regular whore, and I need that 5-star rating so people keep hiring me.
I know, I'm here at the end of my career. I don't care.
Right, maybe there's a way you can give me 5 stars.
Oh, yeah.
And Fab 1.
Yeah, give me 1 star, but give Posh the other 4.
Yeah, heaven. Compromise. And of course, follow us on all the socials. I am a memoir. Me I am a memoir at gmail.com.
Yes, please
if you
email
would like
us.
to
We'd
tell
love to
us
hear from you.
Yes, how awful we are.
And if you have had an experience with racism, we are 2 white people, so we do not have that kind of horrific. We're both not the butchest men in the world, so we've had some sort of prejudice happen towards us.
What are you saying?
But, we would love to hear your stories as well. Like, if you have
of course.
had experiences like this, like we are not the kind of people that should necessarily be talking about this, but here we are. We've chosen to do this, this podcast.
I think it was, let's do a fun Mariah Carey podcast. And then it's like, oh, shit. But yeah, we are more than happy to have people come on and tell your own story. You can record it yourself and we can play that. We don't have to tell your story for you, of course.
No, we don't. We don't want to Oprah-splain.
No one wants to Oprah-splain unless you're Oprah, in which case it's fine. I should say I did have a little bit of feedback this week from my sister, who has been using the word therapizing as if it's real, not realizing that it's not. So you're welcome.
Therapize.
But I think that's it. I think we're good.
Oh, well, I will see you next Mariah Monday.
Bye, Lamely.
Bye, Lamely.
Me.